I love it when you call me Big Papa. Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. You know what? I love it. I do. I love it when you guys share the Good Girl podcast. Share about how it is helpful to your life, how it adds something, how it adds value to you. So thank you for sharing that. Like it literally brings joy to my soul. It affirms my work. I know they say you shouldn't get affirmation from other people, but I'm just letting you know, baby, it feels good. It feels good. It feels good. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for shouting us out. Thank you for all that. It makes a difference in my world. And it shares the podcast. I've met people on the street and they're like, I don't know how I got your podcast, but I know about you. I'm like, thank you. So I hope you guys hear and feel my appreciation. Y'all like, what am I even listening to? This is the Good Girl podcast. There wasn't a place for women to be themselves in every facet of their lives. The Good Girl podcast was created to offer that space, to have conversations with a gutted truth without restriction. Join us every week to unpack your own set of questions and confessions. I am Cameo King, your host of the Good Girl podcast. So this week we're starting a new series, a series around Black hair. If you are a Black woman, you know the hold our hair has on us. What we decide to do with it, how we decide to do with it, how it oftentimes determines where we will go, how we will show up in a space, how people respond to us, right? So Black hair is deep. It is layered. I'm thinking back to something I read. It goes way back. I want to get too deep into this conversation, but just so some of us can understand, Black hair, our hair was a means for survival. When our ancestors were enslaved people and they decided to escape the system of oppression, the system of enslavement, their hair was braided. It was cornrowed, but it included like nourishment, food, rice, beans, stuff that you could take along your journey to live. So our hair tells such a deep story of who we are as a people. And I thought it was appropriate, especially starting in March. March is Women's History Month, that we include the stories, the historical stories, as well as the present day stories of Black women. So first, let's listen to whom is going to start this series off. And then we'll hop into the conversation.
It started with my daughter.
That's Danielle Hibbets.
She has hair down to her butt. It's thick. It was our journey through her growth process.
Dr. Hibbets, also known as Dr. Dani, is the author of Herstory of Hairstory, a book that details the psychological and emotional implication hair has on African American women.
So hair for me is my gift, again, to Black girls, because I went through the trauma of my mom wanting to cut all my hair off and cut my hair into this Dorothy Hamill short and sassy haircut, but I got Black hair that's curly and that's fine, and that doesn't work. We can go to the beauty salon on Saturday, but by Monday my hair is back poofy and swollen, and I didn't like what my hair looked like.
Dr. Dani combined more than 35 years of experience as a hairstylist with her master's in forensic psychology and a master's in marriage and family therapy, plus her doctorate in clinical psychology and forensic psychology to produce this work.
What impacts us and why hair is such a big thing for our self-esteem, for our identity, and for our self-awareness. Mm-hmm. So part of the her story is our own individual stories that we have regarding hair and how it impacts our life.
All right, let's get into this conversation really quick. But first, 2 reminders. As always, we are accepting your confessions and your questions. You can hit the link in the show notes, or you can always head to our website, thegoodgirlpodcast.com, or if you're following us on Instagram, you can slide in my DM or hit the link in our bio. Number 2, make sure you leave a comment on our any podcast page that you are listening on. It really boosts us in the ratings. It gets us out there, and like we want to be out there, y'all. We want to be out there. So make sure you do that when you have time. All right, let's listen to this conversation. Dr. Dani, I'm so excited to have you a part of the Good Girl podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Camille. I think everything happens for a reason. I'm glad we connected for this purpose.
I am glad to. I had been searching for you. When I say searching for you, looking for someone who had the passion, the skill, but I think above all else, like, you know, this is your lane. You researched this, you lived this, and it proves itself every single day in how we live out our lives. And so I think you are crucial, if not central, if not foundational to this conversation we have about hair. So excited to have you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, I am. Hair is my everything. I say it's my everything because I started doing hair as a little girl with Chrissy Doll, right? I grew up and became a cosmetologist, so I did hair every day behind a chair. I did hair in terms of educating other hairstylists, a design essential platform artist, teaching hair cutting style, etiquette of hair, how to be a professional hairstylist, how to not keep your clients under the chair and under the dryer for 2 hours while we gossip and run our mouth. It's about making money. So if you want to make money, then the quicker you get them in, the quicker you get them out, the more money you make. So after that,
so it's so funny. I think that's so important though, because I know I don't like to sit up under the dryer or sit anywhere for a long, especially Black women, right? We have so much stuff to do, and the last thing we want to do is sit in a place for an unnecessary amount of time. But the one thing I really want to start this conversation with, Dr. Dani, is we know about you, right? We've heard the story about who you are, about your credentials, about what you bring to the table. I want you, if you can, right? Because I feel like this is a big, deep, wide question, right? What I'm about to ask. Can you connect for us hair to our psychological mindset as Black women? I just feel like that's a wide question, right?
Well, to
Come
give
on.
you all of that information, you would have to read my book entitled Her Story of the Hair Story, the qualitative study of the psychological implications and emotional effects that hair has on African American women. And in hindsight, I did the research. I did all of the information and the knowledge about hair, how hair has impacted us over the years, how we used bacon grease and chicken lard in our hair in a can with a knife to straighten our hair so that we could look aesthetically pleasing to the masters, how we used to have to wear scarves on our head. I bet you don't know where the scarf came from. We had to wear scarves on our head because we were working in the kitchen or we were working in the house, and they didn't want the lard and the grease and anything to be in our hair to fall into their food, right? So we used to use coffee beans and blueberries to color our hair. There's so much history about our hair that's why I entitled the book Her Story, because it's not his story, it's her story. It's our collective story about hair and how hair has impacted us over the years and how it's still impacting us today.
So is hair impacting us in a way that we don't know, right? So when I go and get my hair done, I just say I want it straight, or I want it curly, or I want a 16
That
inch
right
weave.
there impacts us, right? Because we don't know how we're supposed to look professionally. We don't know what is expected of us. I don't know if you're familiar with the Crown Act right now, but it's about hair discrimination. I wrote this book in order for my colleagues to understand when you behaviorally observe someone, don't forget to include Black women in their hair. If she comes with her hair wrapped up in a scarf today and she's normally got her hair done and normally looking very professional and normally carrying herself a certain way, Part of the indicator of that depression is the fact that she did everything she could do to get to that appointment today for that therapy. You don't know what's going on in her life. We know what's going on in our hair based on what our moods are. We know what's going on in our hair based on what's physically going on in our body. Liver cancer shows up in different forms in your hair. There are so much that impacts Black women about their hair, but yes, the psychological implication, the emotional effects, all of that goes back. Do you know the history of our hair? That's why I wrote the book.
What is the difference, you would say, based on your research, between the implications of hair on Black women, African American women, women of African descent, compared to, I'm just going to say white women, because we understand that to be the standard within the Western society?
Beauty standards were developed based on what was aesthetically pleasing to Caucasian men. So that's where you get the standard of beauty. And all of our lives, we as Black women have tried to emulate that standard of beauty. The standards of beauty that were derived by other people that don't look like us. So, how could they say what we're supposed to look like? How do they know what's beautiful for us? Right? So, we have to have our own self identity and our own self value and our own self worth. That started around the 60s when it was Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and we were wearing our afros and we were getting in touch with us and wearing our dashikis and wearing our African symbolism. But see, what we don't understand is we're dealing with a society and a system that was not created for us. So anything that they have that we aspire to have, just like a job. I want to go to work, right? But while I'm at work, do I have to be asked, oh, your hair was this way yesterday and it's this way today? Is that your hair? Can I touch your hair? Can I feel your hair? I'm not asking to touch your hair.
Yeah.
I notice you come to work with your hair wet, right? Is that a problem? That's professional. But if I come to work with my hair in braids, I'm not professional. Who gets to determine what's professional and what's not professional?
How do we internalize that? Right. And I know you talked about, because I'm asking this question because I think there are things that happen in our psyche. I think it manifests in ways we don't even realize, when we essentially begin to hate ourselves, but we don't realize that that is what's happening. We don't realize that when we look in the mirror, the reason I don't like the way this looks, or the reason that I allow some things to happen, and I'm going to touch on it, everything from why some women don't have edges, right? People make jokes about that, but the truth is, a lot of that comes from us internalizing this idea of beauty, that my edges should be laid. I think Beyonce said, "I'm gonna let them shrivel up," right? Because that's how they are in its natural state. But we don't praise that. We consider that not done. And so, through your research, from the psychological perspective, how does that really manifest itself in individuals every day, when in ways we don't even realize it, right? In ways that I don't realize, that I'm essentially hating how I look and how I exist, as I am.
So, in my research, I suggest that this usually starts in the secondary socialization process. This is when a kindergartner goes to school. This is when you realize that the other kids in the classroom, their hair is different than my hair. My hair doesn't move naturally on its own, so I get ballies, I get barrettes on my hair that make my hair move so that I can feel like I'm beautiful too. It starts as early as, like I said, when you're going to school and somebody is light skinned versus someone who's dark skinned, and we want to be what we are not. We want to be what somebody else is. They're getting the attention, they're getting the boys that are chasing after them by junior high school. They're the ones that are seen as, and this is also about our body, right? We got all of these curves, we got all of this thick hair. We got all of these big, thick noses. We got all of this big, thick lips. Everything that's opposite of what the standards of beauty are that are shown in the media, on television. So we as women have had to learn to love ourselves. So, how we judge ourselves, how we determine what is important, it's about how much you care and love yourself. So, in my book, I'm saying self awareness, self identity, self esteem. Those are the things that determine what's beautiful.
I love how you took us down that path, right? Like it's about hair, but it's not about hair, right? It's about what the hair can do for me. It's about what this look can do for me. It's about how we have created this currency of beauty and very much how it impacts Black women because our looks were not a part of that currency initially, right? I'm not even going to go down. I'm not even going to go down the aisle too much about why beauty is a currency, right? I think that's connected to capitalism and just all this other stuff and who decides what is beautiful anyway. But are there little things that we don't even realize that we do, women do, that you've seen girls do, that we don't even realize we're doing that's harmful to us psychologically when it comes to our hair?
So, if you want to talk about these lace fronts that we're now wearing, and that is taking out our hair, despite the fact that we're losing our edges. Mine are gone, right? But it's not from lace fronts, it's from genetics. It's the pills that we're taking, it's the medication, it's linked to the diabetes, it's linked to the fact that we're wearing these lace fronts, pulling our hair out. It's linked to the fact that we're giving the Korean population our whole checks. Let me tell you the digital divide and the money divide that's going on right now in my area. So in Santa Clara County, we have all of these Korean and Asians that are going to school. They're getting educated. Their parents owned beauty supplies. So we're sending them to college. They get these degrees. They don't even want to come back and work in their family's business because it's in the ghetto and they don't want to come to the ghetto. What we're doing to each other is we're making each other feel bad about whether we have enough money to wear Dolce Gabbana, or whether we have enough money to wear YSL, or whether we have enough money to wear red bottom shoes. This is all a digital divide and a money divide to make us think and believe that if we don't have all of these material things, that we have no value. That value is not in the material. The value is in who we are as people.
I just don't know if I can emphasize this enough. I mean, I think I've heard stories. I've heard stories of how much our hair controls how we show up in the world, and I've experienced it too. Everything from women not wanting to work out. We're talking about physical health, our physical health, and I get it though, right? You don't want to work out because you're going to mess up your hair.
Exactly. I don't want to spend, my gym fees. I don't want to spend to go get my hair done to look professional at work, but then I can't work out because my hair is going to swell up. And when my hair swells up, I can't go to work with Afro puffs, my natural look, because then I got to worry about the white people looking at me like, who are you? Are you trying to make a statement? Are you trying to be black? I'm just being me. Right? But we have all these standards we're supposed to keep up with. We have all of these images that we need to uphold. We have all of these different controls. Like, I can't go outside to the grocery store unless my hair is done. I might meet a man. I can't go outside because I don't want nobody to see that my hair is not done. Like, I'll put on a hoodie and go because it's time for me to go get my braids done. I don't want people to see me with my natural afro. It makes me feel bad about me.
I'm speechless because I mean, but when you break it down like that, when you like, we are literally deciding not to live the only life that we know we have because of our hair. It's like we're in this kind of conundrum, like you said. The reason I can't work out is because my hair is going to get poofy. But if my hair gets poofy, It's because, then I'm going to have issues at work. I don't want to deal with those microaggressions at work. And so it's this very interesting cycle. And then on top of that, talking about things you can and you can't control, I had an experience. My background is in journalism. It's in radio. I'm an award-winning journalist, so it had nothing to do with my skill. But I remember very clearly wanting to be a reporter on air. I was a producer at the time. People oftentimes transitioned from producers to reporters if they put in the time, if they put in the work. And I remember clearly my news director at the time telling me that I had to do something with my hair if I wanted to be a reporter. Mind you, this is about maybe 12, 15 years ago, right? I think the tide is changing to a certain extent, but very clearly telling me you need to go put on a wig, right? Or you should straighten it, or you can't get a perm. And mind you, and this person, this was a Black man.
Girl, in my book, I'm talking about Judge Maybelline Ephraim not being able to do divorce court because they didn't want to give her a budget for her hair. We're talking about Wendy Williams. We're talking about Will Smith, Viv. We're talking about all of this history is laid out in my book. We're talking about the history. So look, my titles are Understanding Our Roots, Our Kinky Resilience, right? Because we have to be resilient, just as kinky as our hair is. Untangling hair story from the roots, right? Until you understand our history, until you understand how it impacted us from being able to work, I got a girlfriend, she also wrote a book, My Hair is Professional Too. She's an attorney. She gives us all of the information of all of the fights that we have had to have based on hair and hair discrimination. This isn't just about us. This has been inflicted upon us. We've internalized this, and this is how we're showing up in the world now, unhappy, not knowing who we are, not knowing what our strengths are, not being able to walk in our own truth because we're trying to look like and be something and someone that we're not. What happened to can I just be me? Can you accept me for who I am?
Listen, I need an offering plate. So I I need an offering because this space that Black women are in, trying to just simply exist, trying to be. Some people may hear this and say, oh, well, just start wearing your hair different. Oh, well, just show up, as you are. But it is so layered. It's so layered. I remember being angry at myself as a teen because my hair wouldn't stay straight. Like angry as a teen because my hair wouldn't stay straight. And so
it shapes who we become. It shapes who we think we are. It shapes, just like your hair shapes your face or it shapes you. It shapes the trajectory that your life goes into because of who you think you are, whether you're accepted in the spaces that you try to go into. Do you know that I heard the first thing that I heard on social media when I saw that, what's the girl's name, Kajenti, or the lady that just got accepted or is going to be the new Supreme Court judge, Kajenti, what, say her name, because I'm
no, because I ain't gonna mess it up. but we know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, but the first thing that I heard on the Black social media platform was, oh, she has sister locks, so she's one of us. Like, what you don't understand is the sister locks is the easiest way for her to let her natural hair grow so she can be accepted in the platform that she's in. And it's the closest thing to wearing her hair natural that she can use so she can be okay, right? Because they don't know how to accept us if our hair is blonde. They don't know how to accept us if our hair is curly and in a fro. They don't know how to accept us. There's something too Black about us when we are okay in our self identity, in our self worth, right? So yeah, the layers go deep. It goes deep into work, it goes deep into education, it goes deep into everything that makes us who we are as a people.
There are opportunities, and I shared this story earlier, but because of how I wear my hair, because of how I look, right? There are opportunities that I do not get or that I do get. It's that simple. Like, and it's things that we cannot like, it limits my hair, limits the access to money within the system that I could have, what rooms I can walk into. And I don't think we realize this. We do, but we
They
don't.
don't. We don't want to talk about all of the things that go on underlying the real issues. But if you know who you are as a person, when you walk into the room, all eyes are going to be on me. Come on, Tupac.
I love it. So, Dr. Dani, I just want to thank you for this enriching, this empowering, this conversation. And I want to highlight as I close out that I know we're having this conversation, but the only reason we're able to have this conversation is because of your decades of experience doing hair, your research, right? Your blood, sweat, and tears, that the fights that you've had to fight that we don't even know about, right? It's just this generation I think we're living in. We think that these conversations are something that just happens. No, there is work. There is work behind this.
There is 12 years of education behind this. There is street knowledge behind this. Hanging with my partners on the corner and hanging out with them to learn the street game, because I had to learn that to figure out who I am, right? We got our black standards that we got to deal with. And then I got to be acculturated to that, as well as sit in the classrooms with all the white people and their standards and their thought of belief. Let me tell you what really holds me together: God. And so when you asked me about my journey, my current journey is to share the information and the knowledge and the research that I learned. And hopefully somebody else will continue it. You know, we will address it. We can put together, there's a term called psychotherapy that was coined by one of my colleagues in AB Sci. And it's a way where we can use hair as therapy. You know, we can reach Black people in our own culture the way we need to reach them. We don't have to use Jung's theory. We don't have to use Carl Jung and Freud and all of these people who had no standards that we live by or that we deal with. We need to create for our own so we can deal with our own trauma.
I was like, wow. Psycho hair. Wow. Psycho hair. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it?
It's called a collaboration, right? The word was coined by someone else, but I actually did the work. I am a psychotherapist,
Explain that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The current placement that I'm in right now, I'm working in a group home with very incorrigible youth, right? But the thing that I was able to connect with them is everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to feel good. So the mixed children who have hair that's standing all over their head, simple as, I like your hair. Can I braid that for you? Do you know it takes a good hour and a half, 2 hours to braid? Do you know what kind of conversation, communication, understanding comes out of that session with that young man? Do you understand twisting up somebody's hair, giving them some twisties and fading up the back of his head makes him feel like a whole nother person when he goes to school the next day? It's nothing new to this. I've been true to this. You don't understand. I've been in this hair game for a long time. So now I can utilize that hair and transition it to getting people to open up and to talk about the trauma, about what their experiences are, what they've been through, and give them a little understanding and enlightenment and help them with that journey that they're on.
I listen. I'm about to throw a shoe at you if I like, like, oh my goodness, like, oh my goodness. And mind you, these are things that we've been in. So I was at a, and I told you this earlier. I was at a conversation today with 20 hairstylists in Lansing, and one of the things that came up was that they feel like therapists because when people come and sit in their chair, they tend to share everything. And they also have an insight, one, to what's happening in the community. So like their ears are like they are gatekeepers to a certain extent.
I call it boots on the ground because we are the ones who are actually engaging with the clients. The white people want to know how I have such rapport and how I get such connection with my clients. It's because there is rapport in culture, right? There's a cultural awareness and a cultural identity that they will never be able to grasp or understand. And then they come from a punitive perspective because most of the times when people are in therapy, they're mandated into therapy. They're mandated into therapy by CPS. They're mandated into therapy by the parole or probation system. They're mandated into therapy, so they don't see a benefit of therapy. They see, I'm telling you my business and you're just going to use it against me. That's not actually the way it really works. So until we can get our people in the places that they need to be to address some of the dysfunction that we're dealing with, we're not going to see it shift or change. There has to be a level of trust that comes about. We have to do things our way, not the way the system has designed for it to be done. That's not working. In the words of Dr. Phil, how's that working for you?
And so as we close, I got to try to close 3 times, but you just keep giving it to me. You just keep with these gems, boom, boom, boom. That's how I feel. And I can't stop the conversations because it's so amazing and it's eye-opening.
We can do another session another time. We could talk about the therapeutic interventions. We could talk about the other things, but I just wanted to open up, and I'm glad I met you so that we could actually talk about what is impacting Black women.
Yeah, I appreciate that for you being on here. So before we close, tell us where we can find your book.
www.drdani, and that's DANII.com. Just simple, DRDANII.com.
Dr.
I'm
Dani.
also on Amazon, but they want my coins and I want to keep them myself.
I understand. Dr. Dani, thank you so much for being a part of the Good Girl podcast. We'll also put a link. So if you're listening to us, you may be listening, you may be watching us on YouTube, but there is a link in the description where you can connect to her book and get her book and learn about yourself, learn about how our hair connects to us, to our well-being, to our emotional well-being, to how we show up in this world. Thank you again, Dr. Dani.
Thank you for having me, Cameo. It was awesome.
You are listening to the Good Girl Podcast.